Did you know there's a way to seed your microgreen trays up to 4 times faster? With the world's fastest handheld microgreen seeder, the Little Green Seeding Machine, you can seed up to 300 trays per hour thanks to our unique quick seed technology. That's 4 times the speed of hand seeding, giving you back precious time to focus on growing your business or spending time with family and friends. But it's not just speed. The Little Green Seeding Machine seeds more evenly and accurately, reducing the risk of disease and boosting your crop yields. You'll grow healthier microgreens with less effort. It works with nearly every microgreen variety. Plus, it's designed by farmers for farmers, with an ergonomic design that's easy on your body, so you can say goodbye to those long hours of hand seeding. Want to know how much time and money you can save? Click the link below and find out today. It's time to grow smarter.
Welcome to the Microgreens Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Jonah Krochmalnek. Together, we'll explore the art of turning tiny seeds into a thriving microgreens empire, sharing insights, coveted secrets, and strategic wisdom from building one of Canada's largest microgreens farms. Stay tuned for thought-provoking conversations with leading figures in the world of microgreens. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. On today's episode, we have Josh Schaver from Greener Harvest Seeds. This is one of my favorite episodes I've filmed to date. There are so many gems of knowledge from Josh on running his microgreens farm and business mindset reframes that I think you're going to leave this episode blown away with a new understanding of business and microgreens. So let's get right into it. Hey, Josh, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you on and to hear more about your story. And I'd love to just start by hearing how you got into microgreens and how your farm came to be.
Yeah, man. So thanks for having me. Story is pretty crazy. In 2019, I was doing offshore oil and gas work, and I had actually got a promotion at the beginning of 2020 that put me into a management office role. So I was with a new company, and I started this position. Everything was like beautiful, man. And then we started hearing rumors of a virus spreading, and before I knew it, man, we shrunk from 26 all the way down to 6. And since I was the newest guy in the office, they put me back into an offshore role. And just from being a service manager, I knew that there was no work. So definitely got my wheels turning on how I could make money. And I was actually standing on my porch looking at some remnants of my wife's garden that she had planted the season before. And man, dude, she had like tomatoes, zucchini, she had a bunch of stuff. But it got me thinking, like, man, how can I turn this into something to pay bills with? So I sat right there, right at the end of the steps on the porch, and I Googled up fastest growing crops, and I come out at microgreens.
Amazing.
So that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can imagine just the idea formation happening in your head of like realizing what the opportunity actually is with microgreens. And then just, I'm guessing, did you find you went like full force 100% in right away, or like how did that process kind of go?
Yeah, man. So I actually did about 2.5, 3 months of research, like all day, probably up to about 2, 3 in the morning. There's nothing else to do. So I mean, I filled up seriously at least 3 journals of notes. And one night I just decided, hey, if I'm going to do this, we need to do it now. So the next morning we got up, we went to go buy a shed, laid out the electrical in it, put a utility pole right there, and we insulated. It was definitely a learning curve because I went with wrong insulation first time. But that was it, man. I was full-fledged. Like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I'd spent enough time researching the front end on, how the business should look professionally, and also on the back end, how to approach chefs, how to approach grocery stores. So I was definitely prepared. Still, I had a learning curve to go through, just like everyone else. So that was it, man. That's really, I dove head first. The night I decided, I went full, like there was no turning back.
Amazing. That's incredible. That's great to hear. I love to like just hearing how much research you did on the front end, because I feel sometimes people can like hear the concept and understand the numbers, but not understand like the business, and then get overwhelmed because they weren't well prepared to actually take on a business like this, because it is, in some ways it's 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and then as you expand, it can be difficult to like have balance in life. So
Yes.
doing that kind of research in advance, and just getting the sales models down, and the marketing, and I'm guessing the growing as well. You probably did a lot of experiments at the beginning, and then that allows a lot easier of a way to turn it into a business rather than just like growing microgreens or just doing marketing. I feel most people kind of start with just the growing and are missing the marketing side more than anything, generally speaking. But it sounds like you went in with the right knowledge to start on the right foot and have success.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, like people need to understand first impressions are everything. So, I'm involved in a few microgreen forums online, and one of the most common questions I get is like, should I start first, or should I go ask people if they'd be interested in buying first? And for me, that's something, you have to make a personal decision. But for me, it seems much more professional to have product that you can grow and provide, and it actually look professional and presentable, than to, get someone's hopes up and then under deliver. So, uh, I don't want to shy people away from the business by no means, but I definitely put a ton of time into research, and there was still a learning curve that I had to go through. So it doesn't matter really how, if you wait 6 months, like a whole year before you get into the business, there you're still going to have to go through that learning phase and understanding exactly how to move this product around in your community.
For sure. I think just in business in general, like I'm on my second business now, and I'm learning probably even more, to be honest, than running the first business, because I know what to look for and where my weaknesses are to focus on. So a lot of people that get into microgreens, not always, but generally speaking, it's their first business. So the learning curve is going to be a bit slower and steeper. Um, but that's a great opportunity. Like if you're not learning in your business, then there's less opportunity for yourself to grow personally, but also to grow the business. Because if you think you know everything, it's a lot harder to be open-minded to new learning experiences than if you realize that you don't know everything. And there's always opportunities to learn, whether it's like marketing or growing, or even just like the psychology of like having relationships with people in business, is
Hmm.
something that like transitions really well to like personal relationships and vice versa. So there's always like spots of growth, in business. And I do agree that I think people should have physical product, because that's what you're selling, right? Like otherwise you're just selling a dream to someone, or like an
Yeah.
idea, which is more, you could still, I think you could do it either way. But I think having physical product and being able to give samples of that, is a great way to get feedback, to know if your product is actually good compared to what's in the market. And that allows you to kind of get feedback and then improve that. Did you find you kind of had to go through that process at the beginning when you started growing microgreens?
Well, honestly, man, we hit the pavement absolutely running. So, like I said, that the day I decided to go ahead and go forward with the operation, we went out, we sourced almost everything we could. So this is racks, the building, the lights. We got everything on order, and as those parts started to come in, we started to build out the inside of the building. Um, the first grow we did, uh, I forget how many trays we planted. We planted close to probably, I don't know, 25 to 30 of them. A few different ones just to kind of establish a baseline of, time to grow, time to germinate, and all of this. But I'd already done so much research that kind of had a baseline, hypothesis, so to speak, just to go off of. So, when that started coming up, and I've seen like, okay, this is going to be really good product, because you'll know probably, I don't know, 2 days under light if this product's going to make it, and if it's going to be, if it's going to hit that mark. Uh, so I had time beforehand to go ahead and start reaching out. Same like first grow, we started reaching out restaurants first, actually, and we landed one of the highest end restaurants here in Lafayette. off of that first grow, man. So, yeah.
That's incredible, especially during COVID. I guess was there lockdowns where you were?
Yes, there was. Restaurants were allowed to operate. I want to say at 20 or 25% occupancy, and some of that seating was probably outside as well versus inside, but we were still able to to get into meetings with chefs and restaurants, and we did farmers markets for the first probably 2 or 3 months as well. So we were still, we were hitting it hard, seriously.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that you, even though like all this crazy madness was going on in the world, you still moved forward. You didn't let it stop you from moving your business forward. I think that's a great mindset to have, because it can be very easy to like have external factors in your business or life affect how you operate. But rather than doing that, still going out and knowing like, hey, I got a good product. I want to try to sell it, at the very least, get some experience. In the best case scenario, have one of the top restaurants in the area carry the product, which is amazing. So like, I think that's a great mindset to have just in general when you're running business, and it's like starting a microgreens business, is not to let external factors have a huge influence on like being able to move forward in the business, which is really great to hear. Um, I guess that's kind of where you started. I'd love to hear where you're kind of at now, because we had a conversation prior, and I was very impressed hearing how far the operation has come and how little of your time is really needed at this point, which is amazing. So, if you're willing to share where you're kind of at now, that would be, I think, super helpful for people to see how far you really can come in 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, we started, like I said, in 2020, and we hit it really hard. We're in a 2,800 square foot, climate controlled warehouse. I'm actually in process of relocating a lot of more of the equipment, more along the lines here at the house, back on our property. But there's an old barn I need to tear down, and we're in a flood zone, so I got to build a 2 foot pad
Mhm.
up. There's certain certifications when you hit certain levels of growth that you need to obtain, like Gap Plus. That's one that I'm trying to get now, and I want to get my GMP. That way, I can start processing as well. So for me to get that, I have to do a lot of work either in the building right now, which I don't own, but it's more beneficial for me to just go ahead and bite the bullet, knock this barn down, put it up here. So that's where I'm moving to. But to more specifically, I think last year we closed out the year at 132,000. So
Amazing.
yeah, we're definitely moving in terms of volume of the grains. We've transitioned a lot of a lot of our customers now don't just get the microgreens. We sell flowers, edible flowers. We do the leafy greens as well. We have some aeroponic towers. I installed a greenhouse this past spring, so did a little bit of playing around in the tomatoes, or some bell peppers. I liked how some of those turned out, but I wasn't prepared for the heat of the summer,
Yeah.
and it severely affected the growth. But all in all, man, we're definitely we're booming. We've moved quite a bit up from the little 10 by 20 or little 10 by 12 shed that we started in 2020. So I'm pressing on, man. That's the name of the game. The
Yeah.
the crazy part though about all of this is I started in 2020, and I just happened to make a post in 2021. I was out of work with a knee injury, and that post, man, it blew up and went viral on TikTok, and yeah, man. So that got us a little bit of internet recognition, and off of that, long story short, we've launched a seed business, and I help mentor people in this space with a couple other farmers, Andy from Fresh Source, and then we got Robert from Meredith Family Farms. So shout out to them two guys, man, because they're awesome people.
Yeah, yeah. Andy was actually just on the podcast. So yeah, it was great to finally meet him and hear his story as well. But yeah, I think that's great that you're doing the education side of things as well, because I think just having more people that have found success in the space and have the right mindset to move the new generation of microgreens farmers forward, I think is a really helpful thing. And one thing that me and Andy talked about is like there is no one right way to do it. There's many different ways that you can find success. So a lot of people like might think it's like, oh, like I do education, you do education, Andy does education. Like, are we competing? And I don't think in that realm at all. I think we're all bringing our own unique perspective of how we did things, and then people can kind of go to multiple sources and find like their own unique combination of what works well for them, and then maybe they'll offer something in the future to be able to help the next generation, taking the best stuff from all the current educators in the space. So that's how I see like the industry moving forward, and I think it's really cool, because there's definitely like there's no way that like the way I do things is the best absolute way, in absolute terms. There's maybe some things that that are more effective, or some people like resonate with certain areas like automation more, and some people may want to keep it more simple and do things more manually because it keeps initial costs lower. So there's no one right way to do things. So I'm glad you did. And then the other thing is, I think seeds are becoming more and more important, as the industry grows, and finding reliable sources of high quality seed, I think is something that is top of mind for me, because I've had experience where like, seed can be really difficult to get, especially overseas. But even in the US and Canada, people have such inconsistent experiences with, some companies I'm not going to name, that like it just makes the work and job of being a microgreens farmer that much harder. So I'd love to hear, because all I've heard so far from everywhere I've seen on Facebook groups and other places is like really high quality, like that people love your seeds, especially things like sunflower that are extremely tricky. So I'd love to hear more about why you started the seed company, and and a little more about like why you started it, and what you guys are trying to do with that part of the business.
Yeah, so real fast before we jump into that, I do want to piggyback off the earlier comment you said about teachers in the space. Yeah, it's definitely a collaborative effort. Microgreens as an industry, there's no cap to it. There's no ceiling. The only ceiling there is one that we're going to put on ourselves. And I'm serious when I
Yeah.
say that, because not only did we sell to restaurants, grocery stores, but there's gyms, juice bars, the farmers markets. You have certain people trying the direct to consumer route. You have people that's dehydrating and supplying like dehydrated greens and seasons and just enhancements like that. So there's literally, I mean, I've learned stuff every day, even to today. I learn stuff every day about the industry, and from what I've seen, there's no cap on it. There's no cap at all. There's a lot of growth to be had here. For those that put the work in. I do want to underline that,
Yeah.
because it is, like you said in the beginning, it's a 7 day a week, 365 day a year until you get your processes or employees and et cetera up. So now jumping to the seeds. We started the seed business in June of 2022. Yeah, man, that's really taken off. I started with one lot of sunflower. Uh, and now I think I don't know, 40, 50 different types of seeds now. So we sell probably 5 to maybe 10 tons a month of seed
Wow.
to other urban farms and microgreen farms. Yeah, man. So I started it. Uh, we had issues in our own farm getting
Hmm.
quality seed, and something that I seen happen, because at this point in time I had already helped numerous other people start up. So you can see it in the Facebook groups as well as the feedback that I was getting, that there's companies out there that definitely put profit over the customer's experience, and I get it, from a business perspective. Some things just have to be that way, but
Yeah.
I felt like we could do things better. So I took the risk, and I searched long and hard, man. I spent quite a bit of money just to locate a good lot of sunflower. When I finally found it, we doubled down on it, man. I bought it. I think my first purchase on it was maybe 500 pounds. And we just started with sunflower, then broccoli, and like I said, man, we got plenty different seeds now. Uh, the industry moving forward, I think quality seeds, is going to be is going to play a crucial role in other people's business. So I definitely want to make sure that our customers have the best seeds that we can get. So I only grow the seeds that I buy. I don't use any other outside companies for the other retail seed companies for my own farm. The seeds that I'm selling are the seeds that we are using in our farm. And this is there's a couple reasons behind that. First reason, I want to make sure it's good quality stuff before I even
Yeah.
release it. I want to make sure it's fully vetted, so all the testing's done for this, all of that. And the second reason is, like, I want to be able to honestly say that we have great seeds, and it speaks for itself. So
Yeah.
definitely, I look from time to time in the Facebook forum still just to check on, because I also like to know if there's any issues
Yeah.
that we can resolve, and get ahead of that as well. And there's been a couple of issues. One was we waited, dude, like 3 months for shipment from Italy, and cantaloupe. And this cantaloupe came in. Actually, we were on Christmas vacation. Cantaloupe came in, so the employees at the warehouse, they got it, and they started filling orders. Well, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks later, I'm back from vacation. I'm in the office, and someone sent me a text. Hey, man, this cantaloupe tastes absolutely horrible. I'm like, let me go look. So we had some growing, and I went go try it, and sure as heck, man, it was just rancid. Like, it was bitter, 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 bitter. So
Mm.
I spent a lot of money on the wrong cantaloupe seed for microgreens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had to issue out refunds, and I think I still probably have close to, I don't know, 400 or 500 pounds of this cantaloupe seed. We wound up donating some of it to the Future Farmers of America chapter here
Oh,
locally.
cool.
Yeah, and that's what we do with any kind of seed that fails testing. We try to donate it to the youth.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. First off, like, to expect perfection with seeds, there's a element of nature that's at play there. Like with microgreens, there's an element of nature, but it's much more controlled. Seeds, for the time being, are still grown outdoors.
Yeah,
So the lots and the environment it's grown in makes such a big difference. So if it's grown in a place where the weather is different than it normally is, for example, like, the seed can be different. Like, the plant reacts to the environment it's grown in, kind of like us in a way. But it really can make a difference, especially with seeds like sunflower, which is where having a really high quality lot is can make, like, literally night and day. It can, which is
yes.
probably why I'm guessing that's why you started with sunflower as your first seed, because of how inconsistent it was.
Yeah, that's actually the whole reason we started. We had probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 lots of sunflower that were just subpar, and they didn't get any better. So we looked real hard, man. We really did, dude. I spent the first year, we spent over 300,000 in sourcing seed and testing seed and
Wow.
equipment, and yeah. So it's nothing that it's nothing that's we're a small business for sure, but it's not. We're taking it serious. Quality is definitely something we try to hit the bullseye on every time.
Yeah, 100%. I love that, like, wholly, because I know how important it is for the seeds to be of high quality. So what I used to do with sunflower is I would get a sample from different places, test it out, find the best one, and literally buy like a ton to a ton and a half of sunflower seed, which will last us roughly a year, because we were a larger scale farm.
Hmm.
One, it's expensive. And when you're small, you don't know how much, like, if demand's going to change and all that sort of stuff. So we had to, like, take this risk to buy all this seed. Sunflower seed also doesn't have, like, the best shelf life compared to, like, kale or broccoli or even pea seeds. It's
Hmm.
usually like a year to 2 years. So we had to take this risk. Whereas now you could just buy from Greener Harvest. You don't have to worry about, like, is it going to be a bad lot? Do I need to do all this testing? I'd still recommend testing before you switch production.
Absolutely.
I think that's
Yes.
a good recommendation, especially with sunflower. But just knowing that there is a consistent source of high quality seed for sunflower because you guys grow it yourself is, I think, really valuable for the industry. Because that's one of honestly, the biggest headaches with sunflower, especially, is just how inconsistent it is. And then people get into the industry and start growing microgreens, get a great experience with sunflower, and then rebuy it and are like, "What just happened? Like, how is this even possible?"
Yeah.
So this solves like a really big challenge and need in the market. So I'm so glad that you started the seed company. A question I have for people is, where do you like? Do you ship to the U.S. only, or is there other places you've expanded to at this point?
Yeah. So for bulk orders, I can ship out of country, but that's pallets. But right now, I'm only prepped to ship within the United States and the territory. So that's Hawaii, Puerto Rico. We send
Yeah,
quite a bit to Puerto Rico, but for the most part, yeah, man, just the U.S. I have sent some up to Canada, but it got to be a big operation because you got the certificates, phyto certs that go with that, uh, and I'm just not prepped.
yeah. It's definitely more work to export because there's so many concerns with like bringing noxious weeds. I think is really the main one, and
Yes.
disease. Like I've bought seed. Um, it was actually from Canada, but obviously the seed didn't come from Canada because peas, certain things come from Canada, but just our growing climate doesn't allow for a lot of seed production. So I bought this mustard from a seed company, and we introduced like a new disease from the seed into our farm that there was almost no like background information. So we were kind of like just having to experiment on like, how do we get rid of this thing? There's almost no information online because I sent it for like a DNA analysis because I was
Hmm.
just like not sure what to do in this situation. So honestly, it would have been amazing to avoid this, but like that's where the risk and concern that countries have, which is why they restrict something like seeds to have these certifications, is because you can spread some disease.
Yes.
And like you think about bananas and the Cavendish banana and how like all it would take is a few bananas from one region to the other to start spreading in a new area. So it makes sense. But at the same time, there definitely, I think, is demand from my experience for it in other places. The challenge, I think, for you guys might be that like every country has different requirements, which is have you explored that? Like, is that something you'd want to try to expand into in the future, or is it not really make sense at this point?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Canada's for sure a priority for us. Outside of that, I think we'd like to target South America, just because we have relationships with businesses as well in South America spread across. We've been approached by the government, different. I'm not going to name drop, but different governments have approached us already about it, and
Wow.
I'm just not. I understand that sometimes when you want to scale, you're still not prepared to scale. So you got to make sure you have all the infrastructure set up beforehand to be able to start, servicing some of these clients that do volume like this. So
Yeah.
for us, we're only 2 years in, or 2.5 now. So I'm trying still to grow at a sustainable pace for us and not put the company in jeopardy. But I did like how you mentioned too, focus on solving problems. And it's funny that you said that because I tell the team, we're a problem solving company. We're not a seed company. So
Mhm.
I
It's
think it's
yeah,
hilarious.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
We're a seed
Yeah.
company, but at the end of the day, we're trying to solve problems.
For sure. Yeah, that's how you create value in the world. It's like like a lot of people will maybe start a business or want to start a business because the end goal is to make money. And I think there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I think when you have like a bigger purpose of trying to like help people in some capacity, for example, like just making people's lives easier by having a consistent high quality source of sunflower seed is solving a major problem that people have, right? So like usually by solving problems, you end up like the money just flows back because people want what you have because you're solving a problem for them, rather than like, how do I make money selling seeds? It's like, how do I solve a problem by selling seeds?
Yes.
So that's like, there's so many of these type of reframes I've learned, just running business, but then also the more people I talk to like yourself, the more reframes I have around what is business,
Hmm.
and how business and your personal life are not separate. They're really intertwined. And the more you can recognize that, the more growth opportunities you have in yourself personally, and then for your business and all the people that can potentially benefit, whether it's employees, the customers, uh, just people that are looking for information that may not buy anything but still get value from the content you put out, for example. So yeah, I'm glad that I could tell you have the right mindset to go really really far in business, because those things like they're so simple and you can easily brush them off, but they make such a big difference in your day to day and how you actually run the business. So I'm really glad to hear that you're thinking in that methodology, because it's yeah, it's just a good thing to have more of that in the world.
Yeah, man, that's really the backbone of why we started Greener Harvest Seeds. So yeah, dude, we're pressing on. We're focused for sure on scaling it, but I definitely want to do it at a pace that we can sustain.
Yeah, and even just that in and of itself, like, business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. The people that as an example, I had a customer, um, that they became our biggest customer because they just kept buying other people out, and they expanded like crazy during COVID. They were a home delivery business for just produce in general, and they bought a lot of our microgreens. And they were doing great. They kept expanding, but like after the aftermath of COVID, they expanded too fast, so they had to declare, like, they're still operate. They had to declare
Mm,
bankruptcy, and then people had to lose money in that process. And they restructured, and they're still operating, and they're still a viable business. But like, that damages relationships. Like, if you grow too fast, like, if you really think full picture, like holistically,
yes.
like, this happened after I sold my farm, so I didn't experience it firsthand. But like, just that experience, it taints the relationship you have with that customer, and it's like you're gonna have second thoughts about expanding with them in the same way, because the trust is not there anymore. There's a break of trust. So yeah, so just as an example of, like, if you look back, do you really want to like sprint forward as fast as you can, or do you want to like take it slowly and make the right strategic decisions for your business? And I think, like, let everyone else do what they want to do, but if you want to like think in that manner, that'll take you further in the long run. It might just take a little bit longer, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you're being strategic with your decisions on expanding your farm or seed company or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's our philosophy for sure, man. We definitely want to take our time with it. We've done I think to date north of 26,000 orders fulfilled. So yeah, man, we're
Wow.
definitely, and this is almost all organically. There was a small stretch that I did run some ads, but I spent probably, I don't know, less than $2,000 in ads. I haven't ran any ads. I don't know, probably the last 8 months. I haven't done, just all organic, word of mouth. So
Yeah.
that's testament in itself. When a business is growing organically like that, I think like on the analytics, we're somewhere around a day, like very on the day of the week, but we're somewhere around 9, 10, 11, 12, as high as like 15% conversion for the online store as well.
Wow. That's incredible. That's like,
Yeah.
for people that don't know, that's very, very high percentage. It's usually significantly lower than that. That's incredible. Um, I'm curious on what, on the farm side and on the seed side, what are the most popular varieties of microgreens you sell? And then in terms of the seed, what are the most popular seeds you sell? I'm just curious to see if there's like a difference between the two.
So I love that you asked this, and it's hilarious because now that I'm on both sides, I can see a trajectory, right? Where the industry is heading. So
Yeah, yeah.
probably maybe a year and a half ago, I started getting questioned about cilantro a lot for seed. So that was like, hey, I should probably sell cilantro as well. Offer that as one of the products. So that's what we did. And that's actually I put that in top three. Cilantro, beet
Wow.
is definitely in top three as well for the farm side. And I think honestly, man, broccoli for us here is a big seller. Really in the grocery stores. Not too many restaurants work with it unless it's just in a mix. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think for the farm, that's probably the top three there. And then on the seed side, of course, I mean, sunflower, that's a major mover for sure. This last season, we had a variety which we called tiny seed sunflower, and that's the one that just freaking went phenomenal. That's the one that really did very well for a lot of farms out there. It's smaller than the small seeded, so it's probably, I think we had, I don't know, probably about 60% of the size of a small seeded. So you're going to get a lot more
Wow.
coverage. Yeah. And the it was a thin husk as well, so it's almost like paper. Uh, and that's a big thing for sunflowers
Yeah.
is getting shedding that husk off. So that was the number one for a long, long, long time. Here recently, we've started seeing Swiss chard come up the ladder. That's a big one.
Hmm.
And cilantro is still a good mover for sure. Um, Let me see what other one we got that does very well. Broccoli, but I mean that seems like to be a standard across the
Yeah.
industry. Broccoli is it's just that the one that really put microgreens out there
Yeah.
for the health benefits. So I'll keep it at them three. There's like I said, we sell uh, at least 40 types of seed, man, and for the most part, they all move. I think the only one that doesn't is lentil. Lentil for some reason just no one likes it. I don't even like it.
I've never actually tried as a microgreen. I used to grow sprouts. Like it was a very small part of the business, but I grew like bean kind of sprouts more so than like
Hmm.
alfalfa style. Um, and I grew like lentils were part of those mixes, but I've never grown lentils microgreens. It was funny. Someone reached out to me and asked me about like what are the best ways to grow lentil microgreens, and I was just like, I have no idea. I would just assume it's similar to other crops, but apparently in the Middle East, it can be quite popular, which was I thought very interesting. So, like things shift, like demand shifts for things. Like when I started growing sunflower, pea, and even buckwheat, which is really not much of a thing anymore, were the most popular microgreens. And now it's like broccoli, broccoli, broccoli. Cilantro's really, like you've noticed, come up the ranks. I think basil has gone more popular as well,
Yes, that's
but
another one. Yeah.
it's still more niche though because it is a trickier one like cilantro where like the growing conditions need to be ideal. If you're growing in too cold an environment, it's going to yellow. If you're growing if you're storing it in too cold of an environment, it turns black in storage and stuff. And if it's wet at all, it's going to like rot right away. So there's more challenges with it, but it's one of my favorite. Like just from a production perspective, the flavor and smell when you're cutting like
Hmm.
Genovese basil microgreens, it's like I'm in heaven. Like it's incredible. It's like just like this aura of like amazing basil smell that comes from the harvester. Um, that's one of the things I miss most about the farm. Being there day to day is like
The aroma.
having that experience. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually thought there was times we had so much extra because we used to do like insane amounts of basil microgreens. We would grow like, you know, 600 to 700 trays like just for one customer at certain points. And then when you grow that much, like if you get like 1% extra yield, you have like a lot extra. So I remember I thought about like putting them in a pillowcase and just sleeping with them as like, just that like to experience that smell. I never actually did it. But I thought it was such an interesting like use of usually we like donated it or gave it to staff or whatever, but I never ended up doing it. I kind of regret that to be honest, because I think it would have been really cool. Um,
That's
yeah.
funny.
So what? Yeah. One thing that in our conversation before recording the podcast was how like your day to day kind of looks. You're not like there every day running the farm sort of thing. So I'd love to hear what your kind of average week kind of looks like running the microgreens business. running the seed company and like where your time is kind of allocated at this point in your businesses.
Yeah, sure. So my wife, when we first started the business, she was a school nurse. For the pandemic, schools were shut down. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have her with me, building the business day by day. And following when everything started reopening, she was able to take a step back from that and not go back to our previous role, and she was able to stay home and build the business. So that's what she did. She built the business. She worked at the farm. I started going back offshore, so I'm gone probably 2/3 of the year away from the farm, and she oversees the day to day. Especially back then, I mean, it was much less of a job than it is now. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was definitely a blessing for us to be able to grow the business and focus hard on scaling locally. That she was able to quit and focus on the business. So
I mean,
my schedule now, when I'm not when I'm not offshore and I'm at the farm, I'm hands on as much as I can be. So that can be anything from the mundane things like washing trays, and that could also be from business outreach, cold calling, getting more sales, going to more meetings. So I'm definitely focused 110% on the businesses when I'm here, and then when I'm offshore, it's kind of when I tend to post a little bit more because I got a little bit more free time away from the business. So a little bit more active on social media while I'm at work. But yeah. So as far as the day to day, man, I really don't have a typical structure for myself. Uh, when I'm home, I definitely am focused on the business, and even when I'm away from home, I'm still focused on the business.
for sure. For sure. Yeah. You're definitely an entrepreneur at heart. Um, like, does the seed, like procurement process, like testing the seed, that sort of stuff, you have kind of staff doing that now to test everything, or are you still part of that process
Yes,
directly?
I fully vet everything. So whenever we get seed in, if it's not previously tested, if there's no documentation on that, definitely we have to get all that sent out to get tested. Normally, that's discovered like as soon as lots become available, if the COAs are available or not. If they're not, we got to do that process there. Uh, Over time, in any business, you'll see who's reliable and who's not. So even if the COAs aren't available, I know it's less of a risk to go ahead and send that off to uh, to get that COA, the testing done for
Yeah.
customs to release it. I think that's the biggest headache in procurement is dealing with customs. I
Yeah.
mean, because as a small business, we tie up massive amount of capital, and if there's any hiccup in the supply chain, you're looking at months of delay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing for the seed side is starting just getting that system in place. Uh, I'm still involved with it for the most part, but I mean now that's kind of more or less automated, right? The staff knows what's the next step in this process. Yeah, so I am to a certain degree. I kind of oversee everything. If anything looks off, I'll kick it back. But for the most part, I mean, we've been doing this 2 years now, so we know we kind of got our bearing, right? We know what direction to get this stuff from.
For sure. I can imagine that I had a lot of challenges with supply chain during, especially like, yeah, like 21, 22 were really like, they were rough. Like
Hmm.
I had to like sometimes like beg suppliers for soil and stuff like that. Like it was like, you really had to finesse like, to get, and especially when you're like need like multiple skids of things and there's
Yes.
limited supply, like you really have to like finesse your way into getting it. So I can imagine that like it's gotten better the last couple of years since like the peak of like supply chain issues. Have you found it's a lot easier and there's less delays in getting supply of stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely gotten easier since we first started, and also, I mean, I kind of attribute that to us having a little bit more capital to play with now that, we've become
Mhm.
more of an established business. But like you just look on shipping rates, back in 22, shipping was still like, I don't know, 15 to 17,000 for a 40-foot cargo container. Now it's probably, I don't know, eight, nine, depending on where it's coming from, what port it's coming out of, where it's going. So overall shipping has definitely come down, and we've actually been able to become pretty competitive with other retailers because of that. So I
Amazing.
think, yeah, I think we're the lowest price for the most part. I think there's a few things that still might be a little bit higher than most of the other retailers, but we're definitely the best bang for the buck.
That's incredible. Yeah, like uh, for me, I got to a point where in the business, the seeds are a big cost. Like we spent probably, like it's like 40, 50,000 a year on, like it was a lot of money on seeds, because but I was willing to spend more on high quality seed because just knowing, not having the headache, like to me that was worth a lot of money. So if you have the best price and like really good quality, it just makes it just that's why the business is growing, or a big part of why the seed company is growing as easily as it is without having to market and spend the time and energy
Yes,
on that side of things. Because like if you have the best price, the quality is good, word of mouth is going to go around among farmers, and then all of a sudden like it just builds itself. All you got to do is manage the actual running of the operations, and it'll just grow, uh, like you said, organically on its own. So um, yeah, that's amazing that you're able to keep prices where they are and have them be like one of the lower ones in the industry, but still have the quality really up there. That's so great to hear. And I think a
yeah,
lot of people will probably want to check it out if they haven't already from hearing something like that.
yeah, no doubt. And I do want to point out too, because you've mentioned, at scale, even 1% up or down can play a lot. In the terms of just harvest weight yields off of
Yeah,
trays. So you look at like things like germination rate from lot to lot that can vary. Uh, and if your system or if your process of growing is stuck in a way that if you're just come accustomed to lower end seeds, so like this is a big thing. I had to start breaking people out of the habit is for sunflower especially. They like to pre-soak in like hydrogen peroxide,
yeah,
and people rely on uh, people rely on that too much. I think
I
it's
agree.
it's it's supposed to be used sparingly, right? When needed, you shouldn't
Yeah,
have to use it every turn of the business. So I had to break a lot of people out of that, and I guess it's because they were expecting the worst, and it's like, no, you don't need it. So a couple of conversations in, they're like, wow, we don't even use it no more. So it's cool to see that and see their yields have a upward trajectory as well. So definitely fulfilling to be in the seed side, but like man, even with our own farm, like we've had to we can cut trays off of how we started just because of the quality of the seed that we're using.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I think a lot of people like simply look at the price of something, but a better metric is like what is the just keep it simple. What is the yield per gram of seed is a better metric, because if you're getting even like a few percent higher yield, price of microgreens is so high that you can pay 10, 20% more for seed and still make more money. And then that doesn't even account for all the labor savings. You have to grow less trays. The
Yes,
quality's higher, so there's a lot of like benefits to having high quality seed that people, generally speaking, what I've seen is people try to go for the lowest price rather than the highest quality. Um, and it sounds like you have found a great combination of both, so it's even better. But just like a mindset to have is like, just because something is the least expensive doesn't mean that might be the best option to go for. Because if you can get 5% extra yields and 5% on the price of microgreens, especially something like, cilantro or basil, like the really high price crops, like that's a lot of extra revenue for a very small increase in the actual cost of the seed. So like I've done a video about this, about just like soil quality, where you can get, by using a good fertilizer in your soil, you can get like a 2000+% return on buying the fertilizer because it increases your yield. It's the same concept with seed. If you have a high quality seed versus a lower quality seed and your yield goes up, if it costs you like, an extra 20 cents per tray, but you're making an extra like $5 in revenue, like it just makes sense, like business wise. But I think that one of these limiting beliefs that people have is like, I want to buy the cheapest stuff because that's going to make me more money. And it's not always the case. It can be, but it's not always the case that that's the best route to take for maximizing profit. And usually, not always, but maximizing profit can mean being more efficient in your operation in terms of like using less resources. If we can use less seed and grow the same number of product, it's not only good for the business, but it's good for you need less resources in the world to grow that food.
Yeah, 100%. I agree, man. And I think that's something that a lot of this new generation of growers is coming in, and they're buying subpar seed, not realizing what they're doing. And then when they finally get around to doing good seed, they've already established a process that shouldn't be used, period. If that makes sense, right? Like
No, 100%.
like soaking with hydrogen peroxide. I mean, like, that it's just, I can't tell you the last time I used it.
I think it's a good way for people to think of it is like hydrogen peroxide is not a solution. It's like taking a prescription drug for an illness you have. Like, it's not going to fix the problem. It's just masking symptoms. So it's like, do you want to find the root of the problem? The source of seed is not high enough quality, or do you want to like try to put like, something that kills the fungus and bacteria that are on the seed? And then also from like an organic perspective, putting hydrogen peroxide on seed is killing the good and bad bacteria and fungus on the seed. So if you have a really high quality seed, you shouldn't need to use hydrogen peroxide. That's been my experience. So
Yes.
we don't even soak seeds, but if you are going to soak seeds and use hydrogen peroxide, just keep that in mind that it's a symptom manager. It's not a solution to the actual root problem that you're having.
100%. And I will say, like, we'll use it for cleaning, but as far as, sanitizing the seeds, it shouldn't be used at all, unless absolutely necessary, and even at that, really find the root cause of that problem. So, like, just for example is for sunflower, right? There's still going to be mold that occurs from time to time. So instead of, dousing a whole tray or soaking with hydrogen peroxide, remove the bad stuff and spot treat. That's a big thing too that I see a lot of the newer generation of growers is they feel like it's got to be done this way, and then when they see somebody else doing it differently, it raises questions for them, and that's exactly the whole reason I'm in the education space for sure.
For sure, yeah. A lot of problems can be solved by just thinking outside the box. Like it's surprising. Or I should say it's amazing how many things can be solved by just having an open mind and just be willing to experiment and try new things, because it makes, if you have an idea, something works, doesn't mean that there's something that's not better that can work even better, or vice versa. Something else may not work as well. So like you're realistically, you're somewhere on the spectrum of like best solution to worst solution. And it's unlikely you're at best solution and unlikely you're at worst solution. You're probably somewhere in the middle. So the more you can move towards the best solution for a problem, the more success you'll have.
And I totally agree as well, man. Like I said earlier, there's not a day that goes by where I don't learn something new. I think, even for the older generation of growers before myself and even before you, when there was like, on our previous conversation, you pretty much had to learn everything on your own, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we live in an age where anything you want to find out is right there at your fingertips. And just because I operate a certain way, you operate a certain way, doesn't mean that somebody can use a hybrid version of both of our processes and come up with their own process.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the way to do it. Just like take what works best for you and just expand on that, and that's how we move forward. Like that's how the microgreens have grown so much, because there's people that are really good at marketing that got the word out there, and then everyone else benefited from that, and they don't even realize it. And same thing with me. There was much bigger grower before me in my area, and they created the awareness that made my life a lot easier in running my business, and it just keeps moving forward that way. And like, I did a podcast episode a while ago about the increase in demand for microgreens. If you just go on Google Trends, when I started my farm in 2013 to now, the interest level in 2013 was 7 out of 100 for microgreens, just as a general search term. And when I made that podcast, which I think was in the spring, it was like between 70 and 80. So you're talking about like a tenfold, if not more, increase in interest of microgreens in a 10-year period. And I just imagine that continuing into the next decade to come. It's incredible how much the industry has changed, how many more people are in it, and how many smart people are getting in it, which is really, really great.
Yeah, no doubt. And in general, urban farming, man, it's just, dude, there is so much potential here to be able to put urban farms up in communities all across, not just the United States, but all across the world. You look at,
Yeah.
the practices that we utilize, growing indoors, climate controlled, and then you take other applications that are out there, like you got a guy named Moses who's built pretty much like a water generator, right? It pulls and condensates water from the air, from the atmosphere. And you could take that, and you could take an urban farm, and you could go drop it in a remote part of any desert really, and you can have a thriving resource for the community there to depend on for food. So that's
Totally.
yeah, that's where I see the this industry growing, is the applications that can be received from this, or the applications that this could go towards.
Yeah, I totally agree. The best thing about indoor farming is it can literally be done anywhere. Like even in space, they grow food in the space
Yes,
station. Like this is old news, nothing new, but like this is how we can grow an abundance of food, because there is the limitation is not even land anymore, because you can have vertical farms that, like, in the future, if we can get resources low cost enough, that we can just have skyscrapers growing, all our vegetables and wheat and all this stuff. Like that's the future I think at some point will come true. Probably not in our lifetime, but I imagine a future where like the farm is not like so far away from where people consume it, because it's more efficient to just have it there. And then there'll be more of a focus on nutrition rather than just pure efficiency in growing the food. I think that's a shift that's already happening, which is part of the reason I think microgreens have become so popular. So
yes,
as that continues to expand, I think it'll expand outwards to like even things as simple as like wheat. We don't really think about the nutritional content of something like wheat. They fortify the crap out of wheat, at least in Canada. I'm guessing it's the same there, where they just add in like chemically synthesized nutrients, because it lacks so many of the nutrients we need. So with vertical farming, you can technically grow wheat and have it be much more nutritious than what's grown in a field. Of course, at this point, it's going to be way more expensive, so it's not going to be practical for most people. But you can increase the nutrition level of food because you're controlling its environment. Whereas, like right now, they just plant wheat, throw some NPK fertilizer on it, and that's it. They don't even water it most of the time
that's
because
it.
it's too expensive to water it. Um, so yeah, the future of urban farming, I think, is really cool and really exciting, and I'm excited to just watch it blossom over the next, until until I'm not here on Earth anymore. I'm excited to just keep watching it blossom, because there's so many beautiful aspects to farming, and microgreens are just one small part of that.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And it's funny you say that, because being on social media, I see like others, their questions about the space, and one of the biggest questions I see is about our use of lights versus sunlight,
Mm.
and it's hilarious, because it seems like it's common sense for people in the space, but
Yeah.
for others, I guess they can't just grasp that a photon is a photon, right? There's no mass attached to a photon. So mass being, the nutrients.
Yeah.
It's just a photon. The nutrients are going to come from the soil, or the water if it's a hydroponic system. But I find that definitely humorous, because there's still so much education that needs to be done, and that has been done, but it's still not hitting. It's not. We're missing the target on education, honestly. So that's one of the big reasons too that I'm involved with really pushing
Yeah.
microgreens, that agenda out there hard online.
Yeah, that's a great point about the lights because I had that in the early years, especially because I was using like the red and blue LEDs at my farm. So there was like when I especially at the farmers markets was when I had the most questions about that. It was like, oh, you're growing under like artificial lights. Like, is it going to be as nutritious? Is it like healthy for the plants? And at the end of the day, like it's hard to express that from an education perspective without people actually trying the product. But if you try the product and you taste it, our
You know,
brains and taste buds can sense nutrition. Like there's a reason that certain foods taste good. Like you can eat an apple and it can be like meh, or you can eat an apple and be like whoa. Like and it's because there's more nutrients in it. There's also a lot of breeding and other stuff. So like all else being equal, something that tastes good, as long as it's not processed food, if it's like a naturally occurring food, is going to be more nutritious. Obviously it's easy to manufacture like Cheetos or something that tastes really good because it's just, but that's like a whole other
yeah,
topic.
that's a whole.
I
Yeah,
don't,
I
I don't,
agree.
yeah,
And early human and our early human activity too. That's like where taste buds really played a role at was if it tasted bad, it wasn't good for you.
yeah,
So they stuck with like, that's why a lot of people eat fruits. They taste good, they're nutritious. And you look at something poisonous, I've heard that, it's bitter, it tastes
yeah,
rancid, So taste buds definitely have that correlation with nutrition.
for sure, for sure. Before we wrap up here, I'd love to ask you, if you could just solve one problem you have in your business, like just out of the blue, it's solved and you don't have to worry about it anymore. What would that specific issue or challenge be, and why?
Oh, that is a good question, dude. Um, Man, dude, I've never been asked that question. That's such a good question. On the farm side, I think it would be time management. I still think that there's no perfect process for everyone, and even as our farm grows, there's still processes that change that we're playing
Yeah,
around with. So I think if I could get the perfect process, just snapping my finger, bam, we got a perfect process. That would do very, very well. On the seed side, I would have to say it's got to be supply chain, man. That's it, because there's still there's still a lot of concern out there in general, especially with just the shape that the world's in right now. Because we source seeds from really all corners of the globe, Poland, Israel, Canada as well. I mean, they're just Bosnia. I mean, you name it. So we get seeds out of a lot of different places, and
yeah,
yeah. So like some people might not realize that some of the best sunflower comes out of Italy. Well, in between Italy and Russia is also another sunflower powerhouse called Moldova, and Moldova produces a lot of sunflower as well. And with the whole situation between Russia and Ukraine going on now, that's kind of wreaking havoc on their industry, that sunflower industry.
yeah.
So I think if I could snap my fingers for the seed side, it would have to be supply chain. All those issues were fixed.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I can imagine, like, and it's ever evolving, right? Especially on the seed side, is that there's different conflicts that are going to happen in the world that are completely out of my or your or anyone's control, and we just have to, do our best in managing what the outcome of the world events are. And when when you are so global in supply chain, it's good because if, like, for example, if you were in Ukraine, that would be really hard to like run a business there right now, as an example. So there's benefits in that it's diversification, but with diversification, it can have an effect on if there's specific areas that, like you said, if Moldova and Italy is where most of the high quality sunflower seeds come from. If there's an issue in one of them, one, the price is going to go up, but two,
Yes.
supply is going to be a lot harder to get, because more people are chasing after the same goods. So like everyone still needs the sunflower seeds for whatever, if it's for microgreens or other purposes. So that makes it challenging in and of itself. So that's I think it's just a reality of the world. But I think just what I'm thinking on that front is having multiple sources for different seeds. So like not relying on one specific region for seed, but sometimes there's like certain seeds that may just be so centralized in an area that you can't really avoid it, right?
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. And,
Yeah.
and not just that, but you also got to look at the genetics of the seed as well. We
Yeah.
mentioned earlier about the ability of the sunflower to shed its husk off easily. So those seeds, funny enough, the tiny seed we sourced out of the U.S. The downside with that is, I mean, there's only so many farmers out there that cultivate seeds outside of, or specifically for sunflower, outside of bird seed, because bird seed is
Yeah.
just, I mean, yeah, it's that's a big no-no in the industry for sure. Uh,
Yeah.
so to find good quality seed and be able to rely on that source, it's still going to have its own issues, seasonally, and that's actually the reason we don't carry the tiny anymore. It's just it hit a bad season, and like the last two lots we got where they just missed the mark totally. So
Yeah.
part of business for sure. So that from that
Exactly.
point, we go to the other source and then to the other source, and so it's still a game to be played for sure, because we don't want to sacrifice quality, and we don't want to sacrifice the price point, because I know anyone running a business, if you have any part of your business that costs 20-30% to operate, we're talking seed cost, right? Of that business, it's a large portion to depend on.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it just makes it difficult for farmers, which honestly was one of the challenges, with just the amount of price increases that occurred on supplies and everything. Just everything in general was like having to readjust prices, and you had to really be on top of like the numbers to make sure that you were still making a good profit with your business. And it was just like a constant goose chase of trying to like match that correctly with the cost of inputs, because they just rose so rapidly. For a couple of years there, that it became challenging for someone that wasn't, really attuned to, the financial modeling and just, it's pretty simple calculations, but just like keeping track of that data.
Hmm.
You can all of a sudden go from a position where a crop is profitable to a crop is not profitable, and you don't even realize it because you're not tracking the data. Normally, it's not an issue because prices don't increase that fast, but in that situation, it was. But yeah, this was an amazing conversation. I was not expecting it to be as to go where it went, but I'm so glad it did, because I think there's so many gems in this conversation for people to take with them in their business, whether they're starting a microgreens farm or already running one. So thank you so much for coming on. If listeners want to connect more with you or learn more about Greener Harvest or your farm, where can they find you online and social media?
Yeah, sure. So if they want to follow me, they can just search up Bagel Finagles or Bagel Finagle, TikTok, Instagram. If they want to follow the farm or the seed business, it's going to be Greener Harvest Seeds. So the farm is Greener Harvest, and then the seed company, of course, Greener Harvest Seeds.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, Josh. This was amazing. And yeah, thanks again.
Absolutely, more than welcome. Thank you all for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Microgreens Mastery Podcast. To access a wealth of insights, just click the subscribe button, stay notified about each new episode, and enjoy all of this wisdom for free. If you're ready to supercharge your microgreens business, visit microgreensconsulting.com for a gold mine of guides and resources. We've transformed thousands of microgreens businesses, and you're invited to join the success story. Let's stay connected. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Microgreens Consulting for exclusive content and expert tips and wisdom. If you found this episode insightful, please leave us a review, spread the word, and let's share microgreens magic with the world. Until next time, let curiosity fuel your growth, and may happiness be your harvest. Happy growing, everyone.